Record. Okay. Hi, everyone. This is take two of our fantastic presentation today from Yvonne Hilsz, who normally works with sales teams and larger organizations and is adapting it a little bit for today. Yvonne is absolutely amazing. I love her to death. And over to you, Yvonne.
Amazing. We're round two having beautiful challenges with Zoom. All right, so super excited to be here, and thank you for that beautiful introduction, Jules. As you said, I work with a lot of organizations around how to lead with confidence, and then a lot with their teams on how to sell with confidence. And for me, the two walk hand in hand, that if we are strong at leadership, and particularly with a lot of the process we're going to go through today, it allows us to be either better at selling our own product or service. And if you've got a team, this will also help you figure out how to lead your teams, but also how that can help them if they're selling on behalf of you as well. And hopefully we can get that workbook. If not, I've got a copy of the workbook in the slide deck as we go through. So
you know what? Let's just do that because I can't find it. And then email me.
You can go old school and just write it down. All right. So one of the key things for me is, I know that there's a variety of industries and sectors in here, is you will know more about what is particular for your business, and if you've got a team. One of the key things for me is certainly around keeping an open mind around some of the dialect and conversation around leadership, how that could also help you not only lead your teams if you have one, but certainly how you can show up and be stronger and better in your business. And then equally, if you that client engagement piece around how you can really show up. And I've got a lot of content in here around understanding why people buy, and then how we can sell to different personalities in particular. It's one of the most common things I get asked to teach is, how do I sell to someone who doesn't seem to resonate or doesn't seem to have the same style as I do? And sometimes we can think, oh my gosh, it's just not making sense. And it's because we're not translating it into a way that that person can go, oh yeah, this is a great opportunity for me to purchase. So I've got some great content in there on that. One of the key things I also recognize, we all have the same 24 hours. And a lot of the strategies I teach are very much around how we can be getting to stronger and better outcomes without burning us out, and certainly not pushing us too much into our day and our week. Obviously, there's times in your business where, you know, you're burning the candles at a lot of ends, but it's about how we can really be efficient with our time. And ultimately, no matter what we do or sell, we are in the people business. And I often get asked, is there a training program to help our customers say yes? I'd be a gazillionaire if I had that program down pat. But a lot of the strategies I'm going to talk to around how do you manage the different complexities and different people that we all come into play with, so that we can not only enjoy that experience of selling and sell with confidence and don't feel like we're being an icky salesperson, because I think sales can be a beautiful thing, but not if we're pushing and not if it feels icky. We don't like it, the customer doesn't like it. All right, so if we think about where we are in the world, a lot of us, no doubt, will have 1,000 ideas about how we generating more business. I've got a dog somewhere in the background there. And, you know, can sometimes feel like we're being pulled from pillar to post with all of the hats that we wear as women, and then running businesses, having careers, having dogs, cats, kids, whatever it might be. It's about, you know, I don't play into the thing of can we have it all, because I think sometimes there's a harmony to making sure that there's a good structure in our lives. But certainly for me, it's about how we cannot feel like we are always on and wearing 50 million hats. And particularly if you're in business, whether you run your own business or you are, you know, part of a team, it can really feel sometimes you're just not sure what to prioritize, where you should be putting your focus. And if you're a small business owner, you're wearing even more hats because you don't have that team support. And so I certainly know that feeling myself at times, where it feels like, gosh, who am I today, and what am I actually having to achieve? The big thing for me when it comes to how we show up is very much around dropping the mask. And I think for so many of us, it can be quite easy to put on a happy face and keep tap dancing. And at times, yep, I've certainly done that myself. I'm like, you know, just keep going, you know, like Thomas the Tank, I think I've got it. but it's not sustainable if we're not being authentic and true to ourselves. And I think we all owe it to ourselves to be the best version of ourselves. And that also means being okay to say, hey, I need some help here, or this isn't kind of working for me. And I see that a lot when I work with business owners and CEOs, is that it's sometimes that you are having to put a lot of that face on. That's why Great Places here that Jules has created with She's the Boss gives you that camaraderie to go, you know, I'm going to take off this and go, hey, you know, this is the reality of what life is today. I mean, I'm currently under major projects right now, working till 11, 12 at night, getting things done in between all the other bits and pieces. It's for a season, not a lifetime. And that's where the safe place for these kind of events, and certainly the value of having people like Jules creating amazing communities, does allow us to kind of drop that mask a bit and reach out. Where it links for me around leadership and certainly being great at sales is when we know more about who we are and ourselves, it does allow us then to be more authentic with how we lead and more authentic with how we sell. And I'm a big believer of those two. Authentic leadership and authentic selling, it just speaks volumes versus having to fake it till you make it, or do some, you know, strategies that will get people to buy. I think, you know, it's not my style. There's great ways that you can sell and really develop a great business, and also at the same time not feel that you're always pushing and getting burnout. So before I kind of jump in and start to get a sense of who have we got here on today's session, I do think no matter where we are in the economy, there is always lots of opportunity. And I liken it to be, imagine if you're looking through the lens, whether you wear glasses or contacts, or if you're wearing sunglasses, it really you can really see a difference as to what you see as an opportunity. If you can imagine you've got on your lens, doom, gloom, financial failure, economy is crashing, there's no money, like a kind of Chicken Little aspect, then you'll likely see that when you look out. Now, I'm not suggesting that we don't ever have a realistic view and go, yeah, there's some challenges or some interesting components happening in the marketplace. But if I was always looking out through the lens and on my glasses had all of those words, everything that I'd be looking at, thinking about, attempting to do would come with a lot of resistance, a lot of challenge, whether it's leadership, whether it's selling, whether it's just being. Where I like to think, if we were to have a different lens, which had more of an optimistic view, which also means we still back it up with a lot of work and a lot of great strategies and realism, but actually have a lens that looks at there is opportunity, there's possibility, there's abundance. I personally feel then it's a lot easier to lean into the challenges, to go, it's all right, this is a challenge. However, I can either surround myself with amazing people, I need to look at my strategies, I need to figure out more about, is this resonating with me? Am I doing something that I really want to, or that I should have to? And I think so much of that is also stripping away that mask as well. All right, so we're going to dive deep and really drop into some strategies on how to help you not only lead with confidence, but also to really promote yourself and be able to sell with confidence as well.
Yay.
Snapshot about me. Sales is what I do, live and breathe in a variety of sectors and size industries, from government to small business to international brands, to cars, to wine, to fashion. I do love it with fashion because I often get some beautiful fashion. But I've always loved selling. I was always very good at it when I was working for Sports Girl and Karen Walker in my fashion days. When I was in restaurants, I love the razzle dazzle. I love the bit of the show and the dance. I am a trained actor and do a little bit of, I could say I act every day, really, in some capacity. Had a TV show many years ago in New Zealand called Your Money Sorted. So I love being able to talk for a living.
Oh my God, I need to interview you.
I often say I failed high school in Perth, where I grew up, and we finish at 17. And when we moved to New Zealand, they finish at 18. So my parents threw me into school, which I failed again. And I used to be on the circuit talking to high schools about that. And I'd ask the question of the kids, and I go, do you think I failed because I wasn't smart enough, or what do you think it is? And someone would go, yeah, miss, you're dumb. I'd be like, thank you for that honest feedback, as I'd be touring around New Zealand. Nothing like a bunch of teenagers to tell you what it's really like. But then I'd link it to it's because I had a belief system that I'd failed once and therefore I should fail again. And so it took me a while to overcome that in my early 20s, and to really recognize that I wasn't defined by that failure in high school, where in fact I don't have an education, a university degree, yet, I'm running on a board for public education. I have a great consulting agency. And so it really does come down to that whole thing of what we believe in ourselves can really make a difference as a foundation to build on. All right. So what I'd love to know first before we jump into goals, which my workbook is built into the slide deck, so you'll be able to walk through it. Not my first rodeo, though. Thank you, Zoom. What I'd love to hear in the chat box is who here is a business owner, and if so, which I'm working on the premise that I'm not sure, actually, I don't know. If you're a business owner or you work in a business, and then secondly, if you have a team, if you own who is selling, or just want to get a sense of what the audience is like around making sure I can connect the content to what's going to be relevant. So if you own your own business or you're part of a team, great. And if you have a team, whether it's a VA or anyone that works with you, and this will help me get an understanding of whether you're doing your selling or if you've got a team who are doing selling. Alex, are you still doing a lot of your predominant selling, or do you have people on your team doing your selling? Susie, I'm working on the premise you most probably do most of your selling.
Yeah.
Jules, you would be as well, just so I can contextualize it.
Elizabeth is a solo
Right.
psychologist. I'm guessing maybe she's just got it on in the background. And Cherie is a solo artist. And Belinda has a small team over in Bali and is very keen on finding out more about sales. And Shelley is on her own. She's just walked in as well.
Yeah, awesome. Awesome. Okay, so this is great. So just as a heads up, the quiz that I'm going to be doing shortly is called Lead with Confidence. For those of you who have a team, I've got another free quiz, which is Sell with Confidence, which will give you an idea of what's their natural energy when it comes to selling. So I can put that link in there as well so that you can pass it on to your team. It's 7 or 9 questions, takes a couple of minutes. You're going to go through the leadership one now, but it all relates then as to how you show up, not only as a leader, but also I can contextualize it to how you show up with selling, because life is sales, everything, so it's a great opportunity. Yes. All right, this is awesome. So team, I've just got up on the slide deck here what would have been in your editable workbook, but we'll send it out to you. Just giving some clarity as to what are some of your goals that you'd like to achieve in the next 12 months. I will organize that you get sent this workbook as well. But what would be useful, and I think for the timing, is just pop into the chat box if you feel comfortable. What would be your big goal? Whether it's, now you might not have to say a revenue target. You could say you just want to increase by 10%, just to give me a sense of what, where you're at. Might be a monthly target. Or you're more than welcome to message me privately as well. I won't say out names when I do get them private, just so I've got a sense of what you're at. And then the second piece to this is, what skills do you need? And it's always an interesting one to think about. What help do you need when it comes to being able to get to that next level and achieve those goals? And again, we will send out the workbook so you can spend a bit more time, and feel free to share the workbook with your team as well. I'm just going to see if there's anything has changed in the land of Zoom that is allowing me to add that workbook in. No, is the short answer. Lovely. So thinking about, what do your goals look like for the next 12 months? Just going to see if I can go another way around for getting this workbook while you're filling it in.
Meanwhile, I'm going to have a little look as well and see if I can get it out of that folder.
Yeah. Increase revenue by 300%, need name marketing sales. Great. Love that. Awesome. Skills needed. Introducing more people to my business and the problems we solve. Great.
It was called She's the Boss.
Digital workbook.
Yeah. And
perfect. And while you're doing that, think about, what are the skills that you need? What's going to be most useful for you when it comes to skills? Increase business sales by 200%, increase my team. Great. Some good goals coming through here, which is awesome. So while you're all still coming through with that, keep them coming through. And when you get the workbook, it'll be a really nice one to also think about what else. Imagine in 12 months' time when you look back and you've been able to achieve that level of growth and got that level of success, ask yourself, what else needed to occur, or who else did I need to be in order to achieve that? It's always a really interesting question to really kind of expand your thinking. Yeah, perfect. Explore collaboration opportunities. Great. All right, team, in the essence of time, I'm going to keep moving, but certainly keep them through.
Oh my God, hang on, I think I can do it. Anyone? No. Anyone with the link?
You legend.
I don't know. Open.
Teamwork makes the dream work. All right. So I want to talk you through one of my favorite models. I didn't create this model. I've been teaching it for 20 years. I do not know where I learned this from.
No.
I've seen it taught by a number of amazing speakers over the years, and they can't remember who they got it from either. So whoever made this model, I thank you so much, because it's fantastic. But it's very much called above the line, below the line. And I always say that there's two types of people. There's those who play above the line, and there's those who play below the line. And it's super important in business and in life to recognize that stuff is going to constantly happen that pulls us above the line and pulls us down below the line. And it's really how we respond to it. For example, things happen. See you, Susie, Hannah, I'll talk to you soon. That we, could really kind of ruin our day or have us go, oh my God, I'm completely off track. And instead it's going, yeah, got it. It's a circumstance. It's not going to really deviate from my joy of life just because a workbook's not uploading into the chat function.
And it won't.
I didn't think it would.
Of course.
If we think about life, life is a series of decisions that we make multiplied by actions to get results. Now, we make thousands of decisions a day, from whether we get up, we snooze, we roll over, we have a coffee now or later, go for a walk, don't go for a walk, scroll, stop scroll, like thousands of decisions. And it's the actions that we multiply with that are going to get us results. And most people think of success as being, well, I think most of us don't see it as a linear line, but it's a series of, decisions, actions, and failure. Decisions, action, and failure. What do we get? What do we didn't get? And we kind of move in that line constantly. And it's the same for when we have deemed failure. It's not a linear straight line. Like, you don't just get to that failure piece, which failure is such an interesting interpretation, in one hit. It's a series of things, It's a series of decisions that mean that your business isn't growing. It's a series of decisions and actions that mean that you might not be getting the conversion that you want to. It's a series of decisions that are helping you become the leader that you want to be. So it's really recognizing that it's the multiplication of the decisions and the actions that are really going to determine. And at any point, you can turn those decisions and those actions around. So if we look at people who are playing below the line, there's often a lot of blaming of others, blaming of technology, the government, the system, the universe, the world, whatever it might be. Now, I'm not talking about events that are out of that are certainly, I just want to define this, because there's a lot of complexity and challenge going around in the world at all stages of our lives. So I'm not to dismiss a lot of that at all in any aspect, but very much about if we're looking at what's in control of in our world. So let's say from a business point of view, it could be easy to say, oh my gosh, my team aren't doing this, this, and this, versus going, I manage the team, I hire the team, I am responsible for the team. Am I doing all that I can to communicate my thoughts or communicate what my objectives are, rather than going, it's the team is reflecting and looking at, well, what am I doing that's creating that? The second one is putting in lots of excuses. Now, we all know people who, no matter what they seem to do, they've always got a lot of excuses as to why life's not working out the way they wanted in the things that they can control, time being one of them. And I always say to someone, if someone really wanted to communicate to you, they would. I mean, most of us take a phone to the toilet, you've got 2 minutes there. So time is an interesting one that you hear of people using as an excuse, where often it's just that it's a priority that they're not wanting to focus on, but use that as an excuse. And the second one is that they'll deny they've got any kind of involvement in it. Now, when we are in this mode, we are going to get results, but they're often results that we don't like or don't want. And if you're stuck in that below the line thinking, it will continue to perpetuate. And usually what the breakthrough needs to be is taking ownership and recognizing that you're actually creating that. And again, I'm talking about within circumstances that are in your sphere. If we look at the opposite, people who are playing above the line, and again, it's not all the time because we get moments where we're moving from above and below, there's a different ownership piece. Mistake might happen. Those who are playing below the line go, oh, well, wasn't really me. If I'd known all the information, blah, 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 versus someone going, yeah, I dropped the ball on that. And it really then changes the trajectory of how we respect that person. Often it can be how, we might enjoy working with them or not, because they take ownership. And it's a really big piece that when we can see the difference between what is great leadership as to what is average or less than average leadership. The second is they're accountable. Now, question would be, who is the hardest person to be accountable to? And I'd say for most of us, it'll be ourselves. This is why personal trainers are so useful. This is why deadlines become so important, because with the deadline, we get stuff done. Without a deadline, like, does it have to happen today? So that accountability is a really key piece. And then the final one is how we choose to respond. It's always interesting for me when I step back and observe myself in certain circumstances. I had a particularly spicy meeting yesterday with a couple of people, and it was interesting as I was observing myself as I was part of the really leading on that conversation. I was watching a certain person just not responding well, and it was interesting seeing how they were grappling with their choice of response and the impact that had, and then checking in on myself to go, well, how am I adding to this? What am I creating to this conversation, which was a little spicy, let's say. And that ability to pause and then choose to respond rather than kind of flying out the door with a thought, opinion, or an expression can really make the difference of what that impact is around your leadership. So those who play below the line will use language like try and should. I'll try and get that done, or I should have got that done. Versus those who are playing above the line will really turn it into a must. And I think the important thing here to recognize when we think about leadership, and again, also how we sell, if we look at the conversions that you want to create or the goals that you want to do, is starting to look at where are you positioning yourself, and are you playing above the line, or are you dropping below the line? And I would just point out, all of us at times will be drawn below the line. The key is not to avoid it, but the key is to recognize, okay, I'm having a moment. What's my choice here? Am I going to stay in it and just kind of be, or do I need to take a break, take a walk, call a friend, whatever it might be, rather than going, I'm at the mercy of it and thinking that there's nothing you can do. The circumstance might not be great. You might not like the circumstance. However, there is always something you can do. So I'm just going to pause here. And I know you don't have your workbook, but I just want to pause for a second and have you ask the question, from that, is there something that kind of really stood out for you when you think about the goals that you want to achieve? What needs to shift, or what would you need to have a shift in perspective of in relation to playing above the line versus below the line? And it might be that you think about something in your business around your team or your growth of the revenue that you want to achieve, and just asking yourself, going, am I taking enough ownership for the lack of results or the lack of performance in my team? Am I dropping into too much blame or excuses at times? And is that useful? So it's kind of just really questioning and recognizing that, are the results happening because I'm driving the team and I'm giving clear communication, or the results not happening because I'm not doing that, but rather than owning it, I'm blaming others and making it everyone else and not myself. So it'll be a really interesting one for you to think about moving forward, to recognize where is that opportunity for you to step up, really take that ownership, be accountable, and choose how you respond, versus being below the line where it's full of blame, excuse, and denial. All right, so I want to drop into this piece, which we're going to do the quiz, so you can really get a sense of what is your unique energy when it comes to being a great leader. And I've got this great quote here from Albert Einstein saying that everybody's a genius, but if you judge a fish by its ability to climb a tree, it'll live its whole life believing that it's stupid. And I see this so often where we judge ourselves and compare, like we compare ourselves to someone who's in business, been in business for 20 years, and we've been in business for 5. I'm like, oh, why are they so successful? It's like, well, they've got an extra 15 years. Maybe they've ironed out a few wrinkles along the way. I was talking to a mum the other day because I run a not-for-profit, which is in the public education system and volunteers. And she said, I'm just struggling to be able to do X, Y, Z and support the school. And I said, tell me about what's going on. She goes, oh, I've got a young baby, I've got a 4-year-old, and I've got a kid in year 2. And I said, so if you look at your capacity right now, is the timing right for you to be putting so much support into volunteering at your local school? She goes, no, but I should. And I said, well, if you dropped to the should, would you then question it? And I said, sometimes it's a timing piece that you're comparing yourself to others, which she said, well, you managed to do it, Yvonne. I said, well, I've got one child who's now 10 and I don't have younger babies, and I'm not in daycares and I'm not in nappies and the snot that rolls around you and all of those capacities when you've got kids in daycare. And I said, I wouldn't have done this. I couldn't have done half of this if I'd had a baby in the mix as well. So I said, drop the shoulds and woulds and coulds and, just look to see what is your capacity in your laneway. And I think for leadership, it's a big one for us. All right. So let's talk about how we can harness that natural energy of your team, but starting with leadership. So you'll all need your phones. There's a QR code. You've got there's also obviously the URL if you need it, though the QR code does work. I've double checked. So it'll take about 2 minutes. It will then ask you for your email address to send you a report. In the report, it'll come out with 4 different energies. So just take note of what that energy is. And when you've done that, pop your energy, there's 4 of them, pop that energy into the chat box, and then I'll get a sense. So I'm going to stop talking. There's 9 questions, I believe. Answer with your gut feeling of what naturally feels the way rather than what you think you should do when it comes to being a leader. So I'm going to pause here and give you a moment to do that. Let me know in the chat if you need help with anything.
It's a hard one to do as a solo person, because a lot of it is how would you deal with your team? How do you deal with conflicts? How do you deal with different personalities? And I don't really need to worry with any of that.
No, you might want to broaden it out then for those of you who don't have a team like yourself, Jules, is how do you, even in a personal space, is there a pattern that you fall into? Like I know for myself that I'm very team oriented or relationship oriented.
Yeah, true.
Rather than being very analytical. I mean, definitely at times I am analytical. So yeah, for those of you who don't have per se a team, just look to see their general trends as to how you run your business, even if you don't have a team, but how you connect with your people, like for yourself.
I'm an inspiring leader.
I would not be surprised by that at all. I am too, by the way.
Did you go through all of this and come up with really nice names for all of them?
No, this is part of a profiling tool that I sell called Contribution Compass, where you get I do a
Oh, so it's a wider thing about who's contributing and what they think they're doing, and then what they actually are doing.
Yeah.
Right.
So this is the free version I created for keynotes and training programs, where it just gives you a kind of taster of what it is.
Yeah.
And if someone wanted to do a report, they can do, and then I do a session around the specifics to them, because there are 8 profiles that sit behind the energies or sit in front of the energies.
Right.
And then whether I work it for solopreneurs or I do it in large organizations, because then I can do team reports for the ones that have big teams to go, here's your gaps, here's where you're trying to put square pegs in round holes. It's a whole big piece around productivity. So if you're, as an inspiring leader, which is very much relationship and good with people, connecting, networking, often not the greatest at completion,
No.
repetitive tasks, detail.
Very good at conflict.
Yeah, well, definitely depends on conflict. You're looking to resolve conflict to make sure that both parties come out okay.
Yes.
Where different profiles will be more stuck on, no, this is what's right, and it doesn't matter.
It would be good to take the emotion out of it. It'd be one of those leaders who goes, you know what, you've done a shit job, or you've done a good job, and just be unemotional about it. But I always get so upset for the person I'm saying isn't great.
Well, look, there's pros and cons. That leader will have different issues for being so black and white. And there's no right or wrong. It's just understanding where you are. And in the report, it shows you your percentages in a lot more. I mean, it's a paid report where this I use as it's a really interesting one, just a light touch to get a sense. But
Alex is another inspiring leader.
Yeah, it's great. For those of you who, depending on your business, this is also a very good tool for a sales process. So depending, I know one of you is a psychologist or a psychiatrist. I never remember.
Yeah, no, Elizabeth is not only a psychologist, but she specializes in conflict. Sorry, I'm thinking a nut. She's a specialist in conflict for large organizations.
Oh God, that's going to be good to know. I've got to.
You should have a chat, you two.
Yes. No, Elizabeth, I don't use DISC. This is called Contribution Compass. I have used DISC in the past. I find this more complementary because it has 8 profiles, and it allows me to show where people's strengths are and when they're out of flow. And so often I'll go into a team or for a business and I'll go, your expectations of that person, and look, it's not about putting them in a box and saying that's all you are, stay in the box.
Yeah.
But if they're not getting the performance out of someone, first it looks at, do they have the skill? Do they know how to do it? Or are you giving them the right tasks? And often that's the problem. They're like, well, no, but this is how we've always done it. The job description says this. And like, well, that description ain't working. So you're trying to find someone who's highly creative, great with people, really good at completion and analytical. I'm like, who is this unicorn that's great in all those 4 energies, where someone who's super creative is often crap at completion, but their genius is thousands of ideas. And someone who's great with people is often not the person you get crunching beans and diving deep into a spreadsheet. But that person who's deep diving into spreadsheet needs interrelational skills. So
which is why you need those co-founders with a lot of businesses to balance out what you're good at. Shelley's interesting. She's a refining leader.
Oh, refining. Very good. Very good at
lost in the numbers and analysis. I would have put you as a people person straight away, Shelley. There you go.
Interesting.
Yeah, but see, I've had 30 years of accounting.
Interesting. What have we got here from Alex? 3 years ago would have been more of a sustaining leader, former engineer. Yep, okay, that would make more sense. Now that I'm on purpose coach, turns out I'm now inspiring, very insightful. I love that. I love that. Yeah, nice. And look, it's interesting. I just find it fascinating because it helps me develop with sales teams to look at where are they not in flow. So it's very much about being in flow. So, the worst thing for a personality like mine and Jules would be no people contact. I can do it for periods of time, but I energize. I get asked, how can you run workshops all day? And went, I can do 50 workshops a week and not get tired. But right now I'm creating a huge training program that needs a lot of
detail.
Though I'm anal on slide decks, which is, not surprising. But having to do so much introverted thinking constantly with no people contact, it just, I could talk it, but I need to create and write it. So it's knowing what's going to block you and what's going to keep you in flow, and then figuring out who do you need to partner with so you can really stay in flow. All right.
Yeah.
So talk about acquired skills and natural strengths. So this is very much around understanding what your natural strengths are. In business, we do have to acquire skills that will, of course, round us out a bit. Like you can't go, hey, I don't do spreadsheets at all. I'm an inspiring leader. Talks to the hand, or someone says, well, I'm not very creative, so don't involve me in any brainstorming. So it's not that kind of conversation, but often it's about helping people recognize where have we conditioned ourselves to do a certain job or a career even based on what we should do, rather than going, what would I really love to do? And then how do I build a team around me? So really interesting. As I said, it's a starting point, very much about understanding how do we add value naturally, whether we're a leader or whether we're in sales. So I'll link this to a lot of the sales too, given that we're all in sales. Most people focus on weakness, and I think, don't deny it, but you don't want to ignore it. But I like it to sport. If you're I'm an inspiring leader. Yeah. Oh, it's called Contribution Compass.
Is that the one that you created yourself though, Yvonne?
No, I am what do you call it? Not a franchise. I'm
one of those, an agent or whatever.
A partner. Right. Julie Davis is my partner. She's the brand partner for Australia, and she's an incredible woman. I like it because it's simple, and when you see all the 8 profiles, you're either a creator or a calibrator or a coach. It's really been it's quite smart behind it. And then her and I have developed programs as to how do you sell using those profiles, which is what I've got in this one. How do you lead? How do you reposition teams? And often it's sometimes just tweaking the job description and can unlock a team member quite immediately. Or repositioning how a team works. So rather than a project starting and stopping with one person, go, well, that's trying to get all 4 natural energies to be in the same person, versus going, that person pulling the data, that person pulling the creativity, that person can do this. And all of a sudden it kind of snowballs. So I like kind of rethinking that whole through. So it's also then looking at what do we naturally do in critical moments. So for me as an inspiring leader, I lead with teams and people first. When I'm out of flow, I also am a Scorpion, but out of flow.
Oh, are you?
That's where I can go, you're dead to me. Very rarely though, but God, when I do, it's like, oh, thankfully it's not a side of myself I see very often. But if I'm in a meeting or anything, I'm always thinking, who do I know? Who do I know? Where someone who's very creative would be like, oh, what could I create that could move my business forward? No, we don't have conflict skills component. However, what I do have in there is when teams don't get on, it's because they're not recognizing the value that they each bring. So when I do some conflict management, just when I go in to help teams develop their sales capability, I wouldn't get hired as a mediator or a conflict specialist, but there's always conflict when I go into businesses if there's underperforming. And often it's when I look at them and I go, you're not valuing their contribution and you're running it through your filter of the world, or vice versa. You are coming in at different angles. Sometimes it's the timing of their meetings isn't right. You will have a highly creative person with a highly analytical person. The analytic person is always going to be dropping the creative person's ideas down to the ground, going, nah, that's wrong, that's wrong, that's wrong, which will crush the creative usually. And then they'll start to go, well, if you've got such bright ideas, you fix it. Well, the analytical person is not there for the bright ideas, they're there for the red pen. So then I'll talk about, well, structure your process differently. Let the creators just go for it. Once they've got all their creativeness out, then allow them to let go of the baby and say to the person who's not often in the room, it's often best not to have them sitting there together, or at least have it mediated that they can bounce ideas and go, right, these are all of our ideas. Shake the tree and see what falls out. Show us the gaps, show us the problems. Then once you've red penned everything, whether literally or figuratively, we're going to handball it back to the creator. And so the creator now knows that the value is being given by someone looking at through a different lens, but not criticizing them. And so then when they've got permission, they've kind of let it go. And then they get this baby back with, these ideas back with lots of red pen, but they're encouraged to now create again to solve that. They feel valued, respected, heard. They feel valued, respected, heard. And then where they would have been clashing in meetings and now going, I need you because we actually see the world differently, and collectively our overarching outcome of producing amazing product, selling amazing business, we will get there. But if they don't recognize that value and know who they are, it's like oil and water. So yeah, we should chat about that. All right, natural energy. So talk about it being what you're naturally great at. And I do see us as we get older, I think until sometimes we start to get to a certain stage of life and go, you know what, forget the shackles, I'm going to do what I really want to do, which I reckon most probably is about the mid stage of life, depending on where you see that line drawing. But I still see there's often a lot of people as they get up in their career, their scope of what's possible gets smaller and smaller, and what they say they have to be or should do gets more and more ingrained. Where if you ask a 10-year-old, what do you want to be? The list is 5 times long, and then just starts to shrink. And then I think it starts to expand again for some of us who go, you know what? I'm turning 50 this year. Who do I want to be? All right. So I want to talk about how do we communicate with these different energies. Now, whether this is you with the leadership of team. So by the way, if you have a team, I'll send the link for the Sell with Confidence quiz that's similar. The energies are the same, the questions are different. So you can recognize that. But if you're running this through as a leader of that team, this will also make sense. So if we think about the 4 different energies, the creative people, which are your activators, your reds, they're always thinking what? There's a problem in the business, it's like, what product can I sell? What can I create that's going to move us? A piece of marketing, a product, a service, a thing. The who, the inspiring, will often go, who can I call? Who can I connect? What network do I need to get in front of? And the power of the 2 is if you've got a strong creator with a strong person who is a champion or a coach who can just run into a field of networking and sell it, they are really going to be able to create some magic because they can create and they can really champion and sell it. So myself as an inspiring, I'm very strong at relationships, not always a greatest fan of networking, depending on who I'm networking with, of course. But I'm always like, oh, I know someone who'd love to buy that. I'm connecting who's all the time, it feels, which Jules, you're the same, you've just done the same. When the green, which is your sustaining, is very much about really nourishing and nurturing, very big on customer service, getting the details right, crossing T's, dotting I's, making sure that they're not just connecting with people, but really nourishing those relationships. Attention to detail and accuracy is really important to them. Often very good at the service roles, don't want to be so much front of scene, but like to make sure that all the ducks line up in the background. And then finally, the hows, which are really that refining energy. These are the analytical brains who are crunching numbers and really looking at how can we get the systems and processes really detailed. And even saying that, for some of you, you'd be like, whoop, toes have curled up thinking about systems, processes, details, sales funnels and tags and emails, which I know Jules and you and I had that chat when we were in Melbourne going, oh. Exactly. I just instead avoid it. I'd rather talk instead of kind of figure that stuff out. So again, it's understanding those 4 energies and how that can really make a difference for you. If we look at this from a selling, and I'm just going to put this all up so you all can have a look at it. When we look at it from a selling point of view, it's a really interesting piece. And this is why I like to introduce it around how do we sell, because all of us are selling something. And it allows us to understand what's going on generally for each of the 4 energies.
Yeah, right.
If I'm selling to someone like myself, like Jules and I, we'd just be like zig and zag and wouldn't even feel like it's a sale. It's just like 2 amazing women, likely sitting over a glass of bubbles, just talking through the problems of the world and making some more. And then it's like, buy my stuff. Yeah, great, love it. There's no effort to it. But if you're talking to someone as an opposite who is very detailed, accurate, likes data, wants process, that might not be enough. It's like, what? You're so vague. You haven't given me any details. I don't know the details. I'm kind of making it up, It just sounds fabulous. They're like, well, sure, but I need to know more. What's your structure? What's your timeline? What's the specifics? So again, it just helps you understand that all different energies, obviously there's exceptions to all the rules, but we need something different. Like if someone pitched to me and all they gave me was charts, reports, data, I do love some data, and that's all they did, and it was dry as a bone, I'd be like, no.
Oh my God. Yeah.
I love Jules. You should be in all my sessions because you're just if we're in a
I
room
didn't realize
together,
I'm saying things out loud. I'm just
I
going,
love it.
oh my
I
God.
always talk about when I teach. Oh, God, I'm just having another hot flash. Hang on, I'm just going to take this jacket off. Called power surges is what my friend calls them. It's like, well, I'm powerful, so I'm surging. It's about understanding. So if someone's got, very refining energy, it's looking at, how does this make sense to them? What's the logic? How does this really work in their timelines? Where someone who's super creative is like, timelines, it's now. Like, I've just had the great idea of the world. Let's implement it now. So I find this really fascinating. And again, I'll just pull these all up so you can all absorb it. Is if we then look at what are the drivers going on. Now, this is interesting because we can connect to this from ourselves for how we purchase, but also how we sell. So someone who is that activating energy, if they're wanting to buy something, it's usually about how this is going to better them. When I'm talking to someone who I know status is important, it's like, hey, this is the best product. This will give you that competitive edge. You will be able to go streets ahead with your sales. A lot of my CEOs in corporates are often sitting there, and that's competitive edge. They've got to be top person, and they want to be the best. Not always arrogant or bragging that, but I know that that's
what drives them.
It's a drive, So talking to them about how will this make your community feel? They'll be like, I've got people for that. I'm like, we're just got to be number one. I'm being very polarizing with my examples. If I was looking at the key drivers for someone who is an inspiring leader, if I don't connect it to how there's a community, how this relates for them to their community, how it's authentic, or don't relate it to other people who I've worked with or what's worked for them, they will be feeling that it's not got that sincerity or authenticity to it. I'd say, Jules, you and I are most probably similar. We get a lot of referral business. I give a lot of referrals. It's the who's who. It's a connecting piece, constantly getting, people together because relationships matter. Like if somebody said, oh, I remember when I went to that first Christmas drinks lunch thing with Sam Leaf. I didn't know you.
Which, for anyone who knows, was a Sydney event.
Yeah, it was fabulous. And I didn't know you at all. And Sam had said to me, oh, I'm going to this woman, Jules, looked you up and said, oh, the woman with the pink hair. I think you had pink hair then anyway, you have it now. But I said, I didn't know who you, didn't know you from the bar. So walked in, turns out I knew some women. And then it was just that kind of that, I didn't need to know details, didn't even need to know about you or what She's the Boss was about. I love the brand. But because my friend Sam said, oh, we should go, I'm like, sure, I'd go to the opening of an envelope. So let's just do it. Yeah. So for me, if that's been a referral from someone, that for me is a tick.
That's enough.
Others will go, thanks for that. Now I'm going to go do research. So it just helps you understand when you're selling. I'm going to keep going with this because I want to get you through all of this content, and then I'll send you through this slide deck so you can use it as well. So I want to kind of drop through, if you're actually selling to someone and they've got that activating, which is that creative profile, what they need from you to make it a decision that's going to be a quick yes. So again, don't get caught up on trying to capture all this. I'll send it all out. They're very much driven by, cost, and each of us filter differently around the value or the price perception. They want a deal and they want to stand out. They're doing this because it's going to better their business, and they're often very quick decision makers. When I'm selling to someone who's in this buying mode, and I'll go, urgency is often one of their high drivers. It's like, just rapidly lock and load, let's move fast. They're a quick decision. They don't need to go through a long onboarding process. They just want to know, can you help and can you make us money? Obviously, I do sales training, so that kind of sits where I am. So selling to them is quite exciting because they're fast, they're big ideas, they're not often a lot of detail. If there's a big detail, they'll often flick it through to their CFO or COO in my case. They will be very motivated by a deal. So for me as a coach, and I don't know if some of you are coaches on here, Elizabeth, you'd most probably fit into this.
I am.
I'll always do a two-part package. Here, I mean, I don't do much, depending on what the training program is. I always like to do a minimum of 3 to 6 months of package coaching and training for my teams. I don't sell many individuals anymore, but I'll always do, here's what it would cost you, big package divided by 3, but here's your incentive to give me cash up front. I reckon I've got, I don't track it, but I reckon I've got about 90% conversion of cash up front.
Really?
But I'm often, yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. I'll give them a 10 to 15% discount, which I'm happy to wear the
Yeah.
one that I'm like, I'll bank it. I reckon I'm 90%. So I don't even know when I had a payment plan out last. I mean, I am dealing with large corporates, but unless it's a retainer, which is
Yeah, but
different.
they could easily try and stretch it out if you weren't selling it in the right way. I mean, yeah.
Yeah, sometimes I'll need to split over financial years because they're budgets, which I'm happy to skin any cat the way they want it.
Exactly. So the whole buy as quickly thing for me is my heart. When I see somebody who's all like, yep, I want it, give it to me now.
Yeah.
And they've got to go and talk to someone, or there is something that's blocking them being able to purchase straight away, it nearly always falls over.
Correct. Now, there are some questions you can ask for that around, great, depending on the boldness in your sales, like, well, if that person says no, is that going to impact your decision to say yes?
Right.
It's a great one if they're using that as a line to go, oh, I need to ask someone. Or I'll often go, great, what questions would that person need to know, given that there's usually a different buying pattern? So therefore, what do I need to give you? Because if I'm selling in a large corporate, I've got multi-steps usually. Layers. Small business owners or medium, like that 1 to 10 mil business owner is my sweet spot. They're like, drop the cash, move, and I'll hand you over to my ops team to do the details. Where they're bigger they are, often there's more layers, unless I'm dealing with a CEO and they can make a big decision. But if they're a person where they're like, oh, I've got to go ask so-and-so, I'll ask them, what do they need to know? What's going to be different to what I've talked to you about, to what they might need? They might be more detail-oriented, might need some more stats or case studies. But depending on the relationship, I'll go, and if it's something that it's about them, which might not, this often isn't for me. Years ago, when I was coaching more one-on solopreneurs, where I would classically get, oh, I've just got to run this past my husband, which I don't have that market anymore. Now, when I was in my earlier days, I'd be like, okay. It was always a no, usually because I didn't hold the space for them. But as I got stronger in it, I would then go, great. And if he says no, does that mean that this is a no for you, or can you make that decision independently? And I understand there's a relationship that people do need to make a big buying decision with it as a partnership, and I wouldn't dismiss that, but I'd ask the question, but is the decision still yours to make, even if they've said no? And because sometimes they can still go, yeah, that's all right, I just want to let them know that I'm about to drop 10 grand or whatever it is. It's kind of our relationship that we do that. I don't go into any particulars to it, but I do want to get an understanding of, is this their excuse to give me a no and they can't say it to me directly, which 9 out of 10 times that's what it was. Let's talk about inspiring buyers, which there are a few of us on here. Likability and trust is different to what it is for the other ones. If I don't like you, I don't care if your product's amazing, I'm not going to buy. And I've turned away some big, and same as me as a seller, if I don't like you as a client, there's no way I'm working with you. I have a no dickhead rule. Difficult when I'm in big corporates, and sometimes they kind of slide in through different departments. But if I don't like the CEO, and I've broken that rule for myself more years ago when I'd be desperate for making money, I'd pick up some business and regret it instantly. They're always needy, whingy, go out of scope, want 50 coaching sessions but only pay for 10. This is when I was doing solopreneurs, which I haven't done for 5 or 6 years. And whenever I made that decision and ignored my rule, I'd get served the lesson quickly from the universe or whatever you would like to aspire to. Very much you've got to make sure you're establishing common ground with a lot of rapport. Don't rush on that. Different to the activating ones, they really don't care about you asking about their kids. I hear that a lot from them. And I always go, trust you had a great long weekend, and then move on. Where someone who's more relationship, go, oh, trust you had a great long weekend. And they go, yeah, went to the Easter show. Oh, great. So did Frankie with their dads. But if they go, yep, I did, and they don't respond, I'll keep moving because I know that they're not interested in chit chat. So it's been knowing what to do differently your end to account for your buyer. Love case studies. Love to know who else is buying it. Might not need the full detail of a case study like the next profile, but they love to know that there's some social evidence and proof, which is why we all do testimonies or flash things up on social media. Connecting to their why is important, and it's often because it's that emotional piece, and there's often a deeper story to what their what's the impact to relationships. And they do like deals, and this is where often they'll get a payment plan. They'll like it. It'll be different where if I've got a deal with the activating one, it'd be like buy now and I'll throw this in. Where this one can be, I can do a payment plan for you, but it just kind of sits differently for them. They like a deal, but it's not so much about, you know, get it done like the first profile, which is really kind of driven by KPIs and really hardcore results. This is about respecting that there's a relationship here. It's like, yeah, we can make this work. When I'm often selling to this, when I've got that in the corporate, and they'll go, look, you know, do you mind? Can we just split this differently? Because I've got to try and get this through under our budget threshold. I'm like, okay. I always go, everything is possible. Personally, I'd never care. As long as it doesn't bleed out that they're paying it off over 50 years and I'm only working with them for 3 months. My thing is, if there's a relationship there and I can go, absolutely, we will figure this out to help them cross the deal internally. I've preserved that relationship for them so that they can preserve their relationship internally. Activating one, they're like, can you cut me a deal? Like, yeah, sure. Pay up front. I'll take another XYZ off. They're like, done. So it's, again, just managing that differently.
Yeah, right.
It's a lot softer with an inspiring one, I find, because the relationship's got different depth. Now, sustaining ones are interesting. I often get told or get this whole thing of the old school traditional sales is like, you've got to get it done in the first hit. There are certain personalities who will never, or I won't say never, ever feel comfortable purchasing on the first go. Activators usually will if the numbers make sense and their budget's right. Inspiring will if they feel a connection and they can afford it. But a sustaining and a refining often need to do a 2-step process because their process is going away and doing research. So if I know that I'm dealing with someone who is a lot more detailed, I might send information ahead to go, here are some reports, here are some case studies before we come to our meeting. Depends on what the setup is.
Nice.
So don't ever take it on as yourself as going, oh, I didn't close the deal in one hit, or, oh, they needed to think about it for 24 hours. Some people, they are not going to push past that because otherwise you're breaking their process.
Yeah, right.
So it kind of takes the pressure off that you're not always trying to get a one-hit wonder, which, you know, sometimes it's great.
Yvonne, sorry, I don't, and I could listen to this forever, but just so that you know, are you keeping an eye on the time?
Yes, I am. Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, perfect.
Keep going.
So this one here is very much about going into details. They like to read things, often like a brochure. They will listen and ask questions, but knowing that they're going to go away and do their research. So it's really important that we don't put pressure on them and that we really showcase what the roadmap looks like for what the next steps are. So let's say you've got someone, Jules, for your Bali retreat. The inspirers be like, oh, what fabulous women am I hanging out by the pool drinking cocktails with?
Yeah.
The activating one will be going, oh, this is going to be amazing for my business. So I'll make sure I get some photos if they're that way inclined. Now, for someone who is more logical, they will need to go, okay, so what does this process look like? Is there a driver at the airport? Is there,
right.
you know, how many nights are we at this hotel? Are we changing locations? Do I need to do that? Where I would have been like, I'll figure that shit out. I'll just turn up. I just want to hang out. So then it's okay to walk them through. If they go, I just need to know a bit more information. Then you go, great. What information will help this decision?
Yeah, nice.
Is it the transfers? Yes, we have guides. No, you won't need to pay for that, but you will need to pay for that. Where typically an activating and an inspiring often won't go into those level of details. They'll just go, what are the dates? Who's going? So it's knowing that this isn't about you failing as a salesperson to not get the deal done. It's just that they process very differently. And that's when you go, look, this is a lot of information. You most probably need to just go away and do a bit of research, see how this fits into your timeline. Why don't we talk tomorrow? Because I know that I've only got a couple of spots left, even if you sold out. I know you sold out, but go, let's regroup tomorrow. Sometimes the next day feels more appropriate, or the day after. And instead of asking for the sale in that comment, you go, and then I can answer your questions.
Oh, yeah, nice.
And immediately they're like, oh, great. I'm not asking you to purchase. I go away, do the research. Here, I'll send you the links. Come back to me. Let's talk to either tomorrow or the next day. And I'll always book in the time, but I'll go, and it's just so you can ask me lots of questions and I can answer them for you. And then we can go from there. They're likely then to feel so comfortable with not being pressured that they'll want to move forward. Now, sometimes for those of you who are selling coaching programs, that's also what they need. But I always do it that 24 to 48 hours, any later, and it's starting to cool off. And the purpose of the catch up is to answer more questions.
Answer their question. I love that. I love that. That's so.
And then when you get to that, you go, great, anything else I can help you with understanding the value of the program or the product? Great. And then I always do an alternative close. So I've got two options. First is monthly payments of XYZ, or an easy upfront payment of this, which will give you a saving of that. And everything's easy, but so low pressure.
This is gold. This is really, really great stuff, I have to say.
Then your final one is the refining buy. Now, these are your analytical, which is a complete opposite for a couple of us here. They're the opposite to us from inspiring. They want to know detail, stats, and do not fluff around and make stuff up. Don't give broad statements of, oh, about 56 of my clients do this. About, or is it?
Yeah, right.
You know, like if you go,
lots of government people would be a lot like this, would they?
Yes, they are. And I have to really kind of be very
government and big corporate kind of cogs in a machine.
You know, they want to know, and if you don't know the answer, go, great, let me come back to you on that, because I'll make sure I've got the correct answer for you, and they'll respect you more for that than just fluffing. They'll smell a BS if you make stuff up.
Yeah, right.
And they would have done your research. It always fascinates me when I get on strategy calls. I'll know who they are often within the first 2 minutes. When they go, oh yeah, I checked out your website. I went, okay, I kind of have an idea of which profile they might be. Or they'll go, oh yeah, so-and-so told me to call you. I'll go, okay, that might give me an indication.
Yeah,
so
right.
You don't want to pigeonhole someone, but it gives you a sense of where they are. And it all starts with the types of questions you ask. You know, tell me about where you're at right now and what are you wanting to achieve. If someone says, oh, I've just got to get my marketing, or I've got to get in front of my competitors, they most probably look more likely activating. Or I really want to expand my network, they'll be inspiring. Or, you know, I've really got to do a bit of deep dive onto my processes and systems, but I'm really wanting to make sure we up-level our level of service, they'll be sustaining. Yeah, and if someone's like, you know, I've really got to get that bottom line growth, you know, we're looking to tweak this and tweak that, likely they're refining, because they're just filtering the world differently.
Yeah. Okay.
Facts, figures, data, track record. They will ask often for testimonies of clients, or they'll want to see the evidence very differently to someone who's inspiring, who just wants to see the people. You need to prove to them that you can do it. Otherwise, they will, I mean, look, depending on each of your industries, I know in the recording, there'll be a whole bunch of you, but it really does change how you then show up and what you're going to talk to them about. All right. Cognizant of time, but I've got a couple of extra pieces here, which I'll just start to finish with. One of them is around why people don't buy. And this is a really interesting piece. And I always stay kind of present to this in the marketplace as well. First is they haven't established the need. Now, knowing the 4 energies, it can also give you an indication of where you need to help them understand the need and really stretch the gap. So depending on what their goals are in their business or in their life. But if they can't see a need, it's going to be really difficult to sell to them without being pushy and awful, which it's not the goal. If they're, you know, we know that they say, oh, you know, I want to expand my network, then selling them into a networking group like She's the Boss, where come to the luncheon, you know, we do a lot of networking. I'll introduce you to a couple of people who I know would be really interested in what you do. They'll be like, oh, okay, she's safely taking me through the harbour as a lighthouse for me going into a networking. Where if the gap isn't there for them, they're not going to really, it doesn't matter how good your product is, they're not going to need it. Yeah. Money's an interesting one. I don't ever sell to put someone uncomfortably in their finances. Like years ago, be like, just stick it on a credit card. Not me, when I used to see it so much in the other industries, like just stick it on a credit card and you'll earn it back with the skills that you learn, which I still see some coaches sell on, which I don't personally agree to. It's like, I'm not there to put all the hopes and
financial
dreams.
Stress.
Yeah. I think they then become a desperate client, which is so difficult to work with. And I respect the fact if now's not the right time and they go, look, I'm a bit tight on money right now. It's like, totally understand. You've got all the information. Timing is important. And I really respect that. Come back to me in 3 months, 6 months. I'll see where, you know, my fees may have changed. However, we can start the whole process again of what we've done now. And we'll just see where you're at. And rest. It's like cooking. I'm not a very good cook, but it's a bit like, for those of you who eat meat, cooking a beautiful steak. They say it's the resting of the steak or the meat before you serve it that really kind of brings in all the juices. I kind of see that with allowing random analogy there, but I'm going to make it work. I find it's the same when you're selling it. I don't have to pressure cook them and get the deal done now, even if you need the cash. They'll smell it. Instead, just go, totally understand. I feel where you're at right now, but let's just regroup in 3 months. I'll check in, see how you're doing, and we can start the process again. I never hold prices over for 3 or 6 months because it's not fair for me and my business. But I'll always say to them, let's just regroup and we can touch base then, and then just put them in a CRM system and hopefully come back. You know, I'm not there to put someone under financial pressure. Imagination, they might not be able to see. If they're not very visual, they might not be able to see or feel or get inspired by what that future step looks like. They might not be able to see that there's going to be glamorous nights in Bali or downtime in Bali or time out in Bali. So you just want to paint a picture for them, or just help them see what that final piece is. If there's no urgency, that's very difficult to sell. So one of my sales processes in my strategy call is asking the question, is this a now? Is this a sooner or later thing for you? If they go, oh, not sure, kind of just shopping around, I know that urgency is not most probably going to drive a decision for them. That doesn't mean it's not going to happen, but I'll then question differently to get a sense of what that looks like for them. So urgency drives that. If I haven't distinguished that I am the better choice, not to put down on any other business, but to really demonstrate the value of what I can help them to do, it'd be like standing in front of a perfume counter with 20 perfumes. It's confusing, it's overwhelming, it's like too many decisions. We want to eliminate by understanding who they are, what they need, and then demonstrating the value of what your business or your service can sell, so it becomes one choice, me. Yep. And then finally, there's fear. So we want to reduce that fear, and that's why understanding the 4 energies is so useful, because you can start to get a sense of, if someone who's activating makes the wrong decision, they worry about their brand or they worry about their perception differently to the others. If somebody's an inspiring one and they're making the wrong decision, they might worry about how they look in front of their community or any relationships that might get challenged by that. If someone's sustaining, they want to make sure that it's a safe decision and that it's a logical decision. So we need to reduce that by showing them the logical steps that happen once they purchase. That will give them that sense of safety or certainty of, oh, I know what those next steps are, where some of the other profiles are like, whatever, I'll just show up. And the refining one, it needs to make sense. It needs to have the nuts and bolts and all the details. So if we can do that, we will reduce their fear of making the wrong decision, which could cost them, which again is different. So it's just knowing all of those. And I think my final piece to that is, there really is no shortage of money. I test that belief constantly for all of my clientele and myself. And every day, every time I invoice, always so grateful to all my community who pay me. And I'm like, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. When I get this swift payment, thank you so much. And it kind of just generates that lovely affinity that there's lots and lots of money around us. And when we deliver good value, we recognize what our natural strength is for selling and leading, that we have a natural tendency to lead from that direction or sell from that, but then knowing how to do that with the other 3 profiles or other 3 energies, it opens up the world of opportunity quite significantly. So that is always the thing. So the final piece, and we'll just pause very quickly, is asking yourself, what is one thing you can start doing? Always a great question to go, what do you just need to stop doing? Is it a limiting belief, saying I can't, or I should, or I would, saying yes to clients that you don't really have a hell yeah for? Third is, what is one thing that you're doing exceptionally well to continue doing? I think so often we get so driven to keep doing the new stuff, but it's like, well, that's working. Keep doing it. Don't throw that out. Like, it's not always about the new stuff. Sometimes it's about going, hey, I rock at this. I might just not be doing it enough because I keep forgetting about it, which sometimes is like, I had that with one of my arms of marketing. I work a lot in the wine industry. So amazing. I sent an email to them offering them my Sell Wine with Confidence program. People buy it. I'm like, funny that. Send an email out asking people to buy, apart from the fact that we deliver a lot of value, people buy. So do more email marketing in that segment of your business, Yvonne. But anyway, the mystery's unveiled. And then I'm always keen about what's going to be your key action. That's going to, one thing that you could implement either today or tomorrow that's really going to move your business forward, and to not overcomplicate it, and just to get that one key thing. And then that is the final piece. Now, depending if you've got this in this community, Jules, you could always set up an accountability partner, and then set up that start, stop, and continue. Or for those of you who've got this in your own business, you can do it in your own business. I like to keep it really simple. I've got a great friend, Julie, who is my Contribution Compass business partner. Her and I do this every week. It's like, what's your one thing you're going to do this week? Or what's the key thing? Just keep it really simple. And then we kind of, well, we chat a lot anyway, but we're both inspiring leaders. So we do a lot of chatting.
Love it.
My final piece, and I'm not sure who's left here, is what's been your biggest insight or key learning from today's session? If you could type that into the chat box, and then that's me.
You are brilliant. I'm going to say out loud what my key learnings are, in that I don't think I've ever had anyone say, with this type of person, this is how you should sell to them. And this is why they are acting in this way. And so those 4 personality types, I think when I did do your Zoom last time, and it took me to what kind of a leader I was, but didn't talk about how to apply it. I find that absolutely gold. I can't wait. I will share the book with everyone.
Oh yeah, perfect.
But it was just gold. So I'm about to go and post about it as well. And Elizabeth,
awesome.
I have done an email from me to you and Yvonne to have a chat with each other.
Oh yeah, fantastic.
Just
Fantastic.
so you know. All right, you better go because you've got your interview. Thank you so much. Did everybody else love it? Like, I just thought it was really, really good. So thank you so much, and good luck for your interview, and we'll see you at the Friday lunch on Friday week, maybe.
Yes, I don't have that in my calendar.
Event on the 14th of May.
Is it a live event or is it a digital?
The in-person event is May 14 in Sydney. I think you've written it in your diary, I think.
Yes.
And the online lunch is not this Friday, it's the following Friday.
Friday the 12th.
And then every second Friday after that.
Yeah, great. All right, I'm going to block that out. Perfect.
All right. Mwah. Thank you.
You're amazing, Yvonne. Thank you.
We got there even without a workbook, but there you go.
Yeah, it was really good, actually. I loved it. So I will send the workbook out to everyone.
Yeah, amazing.
And thank you so much.
Yeah,
and
great.
I'll CC you so you can see each other and email each other if you want
Thanks
to.
for having me.
It was brilliant. It was brilliant. Thank you.
Thank you.